Hey everybody, welcome to Bald Guy Money. I've received a lot of questions lately from viewers who are concerned about what the future holds for gold and silver in a world where CBDCs are a part of our everyday reality. And a lot of the concerns coming through in your questions revolve around these 2 points. Will gold and silver ownership be outlawed? And will my gold and silver be taken from me? So we're going to cover those questions in this video because from the angle I'm looking at things, metals are already being unjustly confiscated. So watch this video all the way through to the very end because it just may open your eyes to the confiscation that is happening right now, right under our noses. And it may also give you some strong reasons on why stacking gold and silver is still relevant today. Now, just before we dig into this, I kindly ask you to take a moment and leave a like in support of this channel and content like this. I'd like to live in a world where educational content makes up the majority of the top 10 viewed videos on YouTube, as opposed to Despacito and Ed Sheeran's Shape of You. No offense to them, but I need your like to help get this message out there. Thank you. So let's start from the first point. Will my gold and silver be taken from me? And I'll even add an additional layer to that. Does it even make sense to buy gold and silver right now, considering the risk of confiscation? It might sound far-fetched to some of you, but the potential of a war against gold and silver ownership is very real. And I want you all to listen to this clip from Australia's longest-running television show. It's a documentary news program called Four Corners, because this proves that those concerns are very real. Here's the clip.
Organised crime loves gold because it doesn't leave a trace.
Gold is a money launderer's dream because you can melt it, you can move it. It's very difficult to trace to its point of origin.
Where there's silver and gold, there's going to be some sort of criminal activity.
Now, having watched that clip, I have to say that it paints a very scary picture of how some people view gold and silver. But content like this, at least in my opinion, is more of a distraction or even a psyop than anything else. And hear me out on this, because I regularly encounter people who are worried about their respective governments kicking their doors down to take their gold and silver. And I'm not saying that it can't happen, but the precedent often cited to support this is a US executive order from 1933 that required people to voluntarily turn their gold over to the government. An order many disobeyed, and something I think governments learn from. And this is where it gets interesting. Because as I said earlier on in the video, I believe metals confiscation is happening right now. You just haven't noticed it yet because they're not calling it confiscation and because they don't have to kick anybody's door in to do it. And why I say that is because what do you call it when a country that is struggling to remain solvent, inflicting high levels of inflation on their citizens, and racking up unprecedented levels of debt? What do you call it when the central bank of that country uses their printed and inflated currency to buy precious metals? And what do you call it when central banks all around the world start doing the same thing? At what point do we begin to call the exchanging of paper that you've printed yourself, for hard assets like gold? At what point do we start to call that fraud, theft, or even confiscation of real assets via the debasement of a fiat currency? And case in point, Poland, a country I love and that is close to my heart. This article from May 24th says they're stepping up their gold buying. And great, we have something in common because I have done the same thing over the last 2 years. But that's where the similarities end, because I haven't racked up a huge debt buying my gold, and I certainly haven't stolen any money to buy it, which is what Poland's irresponsible fiscal policy amounts to, considering how much inflation they've caused in the market. So when we start to talk about gold and silver confiscation, let's not lose sight of the fact that they don't need to kick your door in and take it out of your house to actually confiscate it from you. All governments have to do is bend the rules to make it easy for them to get and make it harder for you to afford. And remember, we're not all playing by the same rules here. All they have to do to grow their stack quickly is print more paper. And armed with that printer, which has the ability to create money to purchase metals, they are simultaneously confiscating the value of your labor and making it harder for you to purchase metals, as they drive inflation up and the value of your savings goes down. So considering that, I would argue that governments don't have to ban gold and silver to accumulate and hoard the majority of it. And I also argue that it's something they might not want to do, because if the history of alcohol prohibition in the United States has taught us anything, it's that banning it would probably only work against them. The better tactic is making us believe that it's useless, that it has no value in owning, taxing us at unfair levels on the purchase and sale of it. That's the best way to keep it out of our hands while they slowly accumulate it themselves. And for any Star Trek fans out there, the best analogy I can think of is that they're playing 3D chess. And anyone who's realized that and hasn't bought into the many narratives against owning gold and silver fully understands the benefits of owning metals and understands exactly why nations are stacking them at this moment. They are a real scarce asset, and scarce assets are the foundations of wealth. So my approach is to be contrarian and to keep on stacking. Because the importance of gold and silver doesn't rely on whether the money we use is literally printed or digitally willed into existence. Inflation is constant. The only difference now in the digital age is that the damage can be done a lot quicker than it was in the analog age. With that said, this conversation is far from done. The introduction of CBDCs, what that will actually look like, and how they will impact the purchase and sale of silver and gold is something I am going even deeper into on my Patreon tomorrow. And I think you'll be shocked at some of the links I've made, and that it could even challenge your understanding of how CBDCs are going to work. And here's a little spoiler alert. It includes the influence of major banks in politics as well as the World Economic Forum. The link to join is in the video description as well as the pinned comment. Joining not only gives you access to that exclusive video, but it also gets you access to all of my stacking tools, access to the Bald Guy Discord discussion group, and all of my newsletters with price targets. All of which are designed to help you understand the market and make better decisions when allocating your hard-earned cash. So, to my patrons, I will see you tomorrow, and for the rest of you, see you next week. Take care.